Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to discuss about how to review a code, which I have not done it in my channel at all. So again, if you're not familiar with my channel, I'll really suggest go through some of the videos that I create. I talk about different programming languages, including Android as well, and discuss how to create cool applications using various technologies like Java, JSP, Thymeleaf, React, Angular, and whatnot. So the channel is pretty much organized using various playlists. And today we're going to focus on one of the existing code that I already discussed and also had a video on it. And we'll try to put a code reviewer or programmistic detector and see how that can be done. So let's get started. So the application we're going to focus on today is going to be this one right here. So that would be that video. Create Web ChatGPT Chatbot using Java, JEE, Springboot, Thymeleaf, Bootstrap, HTML5, jQuery, CSS. So again, if you have some time, please go ahead and look at this application and the video as well. And I have also put the link in the description below if you'd like to get the application from the GitHub, which I would strongly suggest that you do because that has the code that I'm going to discuss today as well. But again, if you don't want to look at the video, that's fine as well. You're not required to, because I will try my best to explain, what this application does and what we are going to do as long as the code review is concerned. Okay, so first of all, there are various types of code review tool, right? Online, you can go find it. And again, everyone is smart these days because you got web, so you can go do your research and find out. But the gist of it is there is two ways you can review the code, or in general, there's this dynamic tool that you can use, or there's a static code analysis, right? The dynamic one, typically you would use it during the runtime that will automatically scan your code and try to find all kinds of things based on your rules, whether it's security problem, whether it's a code problem, whether it's some redundant stuff that you have there, and all that. But then there's also a static code analysis where it actually comes in, right before runtime, kind of like when you develop the code and you think you're done and you want someone else to take a look at it. Well, it could be a person looking at it, and maybe a lead, or also could be a tool before it goes to the lead. And that's the kind of tool I'm going to talk about today. Again, like I said, you could go do your research. I just went to the site, the blog code I see, and one of the tool for the static code analysis that they suggested is this tool called PMD, and that kind of stands for Programming Mistake Detector, which, obvious, of course, it does detect the programming mistakes. And of course, this is not only scoped towards Java. It can pretty much do any kind of code, as you can see, C, C++, C#, PHP, Ruby, Fortran, JavaScript, PLSQL, Scala, Objective-C, Python, Go, Swift, and much more, which is kind of cool because you can literally use this tool to do your automated static code analysis and review. And again, this is rule-based, which means there are certain rules that is built in, and you can also customize this rule. So it's pretty cool as well in that aspect. Now, a lot of other tools that are not free, by the way, this is a free tool, that kind of uses this tool as a background. One of the tools is called, SonarQube. It's a very popular tool, and it's actually enterprise level tool. You can pay for it. There's also a free version that, in fact, in the background uses this tool. Now, so that's, if you click on this guy, you're going to get this guy right here, their site, PMD source code analyzer. Of course, feel free to look at the documentation, download, and do all that stuff. But again, our goal today is to try to automate that static code analysis as much as we could. So using documentation, you can definitely write stuff and run some stuff to do that. But what we're going to do is, if I scroll down a little bit more here, we're going to use some plugins. We're going to use Maven plugin that kind of goes into this PMD that will automate our stuff. Again, as a programmer myself, I'm a little lazy. I don't want to do too much of manual work, so I wanted to automate this thing, and that's what we're going to try to learn today. So if you click on this guy, you end up into this. So what this is you can go ahead, feel free to read the whole thing. What Apache Maven PMD plugin does, of course, is it uses existing Apache Maven, the build, the pipeline, whatever you want to call it, the tool to, in the background, it uses the PMD code analysis tool. It just kind of adds a plugin around it so you can easily use this thing in your existing project, Apache Maven XML file. So that's basically what this does. So let's see how that works. So in order to go along with the video and try to understand how this tool and the plugin works, the first thing you want to do is check out my code, which is this guy right here. Right, so check out this code, and I'm going to put the link in the description below so that it's kind of obvious and easy for you. And you would basically open a command prompt first of all, and then type this cheat clone, and that's the URL. So there's the existing application called ChatGPT, and we're going to stick in the static code analyzer and have it review our code. Okay, so go ahead, do this and hit enter. I've already done it, so I'm not going to do that again. After you are done with it, go ahead, open your Eclipse IDE. Again, you don't have to use Eclipse. You can use any other IDE because it's just a plain, simple Apache Maven project. So you should be able to open that using your IntelliJ. You can use JDeveloper. You can use Glassfish, an IDE, any kinds of IDE. So for our purpose right here, we're going to use Eclipse IDE. If you're interested to know where I downloaded the Eclipse, this is where I downloaded it from, and I can put this link in the GitHub as well. So I basically use this version right here, Eclipse IDE for Enterprise Java and Web Developers. So again, I'm not saying you need this only, you could do it with other IDE, but this is what I used for Windows. And then after downloading and installing the thing, what I did is I actually used OpenJDK version 21. So that's what I downloaded. Typically, when you download the Eclipse version, it comes with its own JDK. I think this one comes with JDK 17. But again, I like to use the latest and greatest JDK, which is the 21 is the stable one right now. So that's what I used. And, there are ways you can actually update the Eclipse configuration to use the new JDK. I'll just quickly go through how to configure the new JDK using Eclipse. So as you could see, this is where I have my new JDK that I unzipped. So see on /JDK-21, which is cool. And this is where I have my Eclipse right here. So in this Eclipse root directory, there is a file called Eclipse ini. Go ahead, double click on it or open it using your favorite text editor. And this is where you would go change it. You see that there's a -VM. Typically, this would have the built-in JDK that comes with this IDE, that path in here. Instead of that, all you got to do is put whatever installed your JDK 21 and just put /bin. So this is where you put it and save it, and voila, it's all going to be good. Then you could pretty much start your Eclipse, and you would be starting using that JDK. Okay, so the other thing you might want to do is, here's my Eclipse. As you could see, I launched it. You could go to Windows and go to Preferences and go to Java, expand this, go to Install JRE. And as you could see, I have multiples there, right? I got 19, 21, I got 1.8, and this is the default one that Eclipse comes with, which is 17, I think. So here, another step you want to do is you want to go ahead and click on Add. It's a standard JVM. Click on Next. And here, you could go to Directory and then put the directory where you installed it, the Java home, which is in my case, C:/JDK-21. As soon as you do that, it's going to automatically find the system library and click on Finish. And this will be added into the list. And whichever one you check, that would be your default JDK for this IDE. So that's basically how you do it. Okay, now coming back to our code that we checked out, right? So if you recall, one of the things that we did was we did a git clone of the code, which means wherever you did that, that's where you will have the code. In my case, I have the code right here, YouTube Projects ChatGPT. So this is how it should look like, right? Once you have it, what you want to do is import the project. So File, Import, and then you wanted to see, this is a whole bunch of different ways you can load this, but you wanted to actually find not the general, not the EJB and all that stuff. Find Maven, expand that, and select existing Maven project. And then go ahead and browse. And in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and do browse and go to that specific directory, which is going to be the YouTube projects and the ChatGPT. As you could see, I selected, C colon YouTube projects ChatGPT, and it automatically found my Maven XML file, right? And then all you got to do is just click finish, and it will automatically load the project, right? And you expand it, and you get to see all this stuff. The first thing you might want to do is make sure the project runs, right? In order to run this, of course, you're going to have to make sure that you have an OpenAI API key, okay? Without that, this is not going to run, because this actually, if you look at this service class, that's what I clicked on, it is getting the key, API key called OpenAI demo API key that needs to be added to your environment variable, right? In my case, it's right here, as you can see, right? So I just showed you this is the key. So in order to run this project, you're gonna have to have that, period. Now the question is, how do you get that API key, right? If we have watched this video will go over that. But if you have not, in case, then the process is basically you have to go to the OpenAI website, go to the API, go to the overview, right, which will take you here. And then, of course, you're going to have to say get started, because you are going to start as a developer, and go ahead and do that. And then, of course, if you don't have an account, create an account and then log in. Once you log in, of course, you will see something like this. And then you got to go click on this little thing right here, the icon, and then click on API keys. And this is basically where you go ahead and create your new secret key. They let you have like a one key based on your phone number or your user ID that you logged in, and I think that's for free. I think it's valid for, I forgot, maybe 90 days or 6 months or something like that. But again, this is free if you were doing it as a demo for the first time. So go ahead, have your key, and that key needs to be added as that environment variable that I just mentioned, which is the OpenAI underscore demo underscore API underscore key. Once you have added all that, then you should be able to run this application. Okay, so let's go ahead and run it. I have all that already in the environment. In order to run the application, you need to make sure that you highlight this guy. This is a Springboot application, so right click and just go ahead, say run as Java application, and let it do its thing. It should automatically start, and looks like it's pretty quick. It started. And then what you want to do is you want it to test the application, right, to make sure it's all nice and good. So this is the application looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and start it all over again to make sure this is up. As you can see, this is the application. All it is, what does the application do? All it is, it's basically calling the GPT Turbo 3.5 language model, and just whatever question you ask, it will use that model to get you answer, and it's going to show up at the top. So if I say hi there and click in chat, and then it will just say, yeah, hey, how are you? Or how can I assist you today? I could say, well, do you know any Java code review tool? And let's see what it does. It says, yes, there are several Java code review tools, blah, 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 and there's Textile, there's look at that, PMD is in there too. And SonarQube, this is what I talked about. This is a good one. So that's basically it in a nutshell. Okay, so now the code runs, but now let's get into the code itself and see where I added the static analyzer, which I didn't run. Of course, the code works fine and everything is nice and dandy, but you will see when I run the static analyzer, it's going to review the code, and it will tell me what are the things that can be improved based on the best practices and any other rules that it already has. Okay, I don't have to shut off the server, but just for the sake of it, so it uses less memory, I'll just do that. So where I added it, which I did it today, is in the Maven XML. So some of the things that I have added, the very first thing that I did is added this little piece of code right here. Plugin management, as you would see, that I mentioned that, hey, I'm going to use Maven PMD plugin. And I kind of put the version in a variable, which is declared right here, right here. So version is 321.2, and that's actually the latest version that you can kind of see right here. So this is the latest version right here, 321.2. Okay. All right. So then I said that I'm going to use that plugin, and then I also added some more stuff in the plugin. I said that, look, so this is the declaration for the parent, and then I said that I'm going to use not only PMD plugin, I'm going to use something called a site plugin, and then I'm also going to use something called a project info reports. Now, why do I need all this? Well, this plugin is definitely using the PMD, that the tool itself that analyzes the code, and of course creates what are the things that needs to be fixed, or you can make it better. These two plugins creates a nice reports in an HTML, so you can kind of see as a developer, or as a lead, and find out, okay, what are the things that needs to be fixed, and it even tells you exactly which code it is, what line it is, and what is the reason behind it, right? So that little piece I added for the plugin, and then I also added this whole big reporting section. Now, in this code, I have only added the reporting to check the Java code. Can you do this to check the JavaScript and also JSP? Absolutely, yes. Yeah, feel free to go to this guy right here, and it has sections about how to look at JavaScript and JavaScript pages. It can a little tell you exactly what to add on the rule set. So anyway, for me, all I said is, okay, I want the report for what? Because I'm using PMD plugin, and I put the version. I said this is going to be Java, check the Java, and I said use the default best practices rule set. And that is a rule set, meaning it's not only one rule, there's a whole bunch of rule that comes with it by default, right? And you can look it up on the documentation, what are those rules. And I said include, of course, all the Java files, and I also mentioned where is my source, what to look at, so it doesn't go start looking at everywhere. So that's basically it. So these are the only things that I added. Now, how do I run this? Well, unfortunately, you can't run it from here, because from the Eclipse, it only gives the option of build, clean, install, test, generate sources, and verify. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to my nice command prompt, which is this guy right here. And of course, my project is in ChatGPT, that folder. And I want to make sure I'm in the right directory, and I am. I'm going to clear my screen. And the way you would create the report is, of course, first you want to do Maven, and I just like to do a clean first, but you don't have to. But basically, the thing that you run is Maven and site, right? So I'm assuming you already have the Apache Maven installed. If you don't have it, just go to the Apache Maven site, just on the Google, say download Apache Maven, and it will have good instruction of how to install Maven and also how to configure. It's very self-explanatory and very easy to install, and it's free. So if I do Maven site, the one thing I want you to notice, this target, if I expand it, it's got nothing in there right now, right? But I'm going to go ahead and run this guy, Maven site. What that would do is that would look through all the code and will create me a report. As you can see that it says generating CPD report, generating PMD report. The CPD stands for, I think, something about the duplicate code finder. So it looks at all the codes and finds the duplicate, and the PMD is, of course, the programming mistake detector. So it can do both of these, and of course, it will now generate this web page that I can go and look at as a report, right? So it's done. It's nice and dandy. So let's go back here, and I'm going to go ahead and refresh this project so that I can see the new files. And voila, there's target. Now I got all kinds of stuff in here, right? Don't worry about all this. Just expand the site and see, kind of like the Java doc. If you're familiar with the Java doc, to look at the documentation, it automatically created all this for me, right? This is the entire report. What you want to do is go to that report, like index.html. That's where you want to start. And typically, if you double click it, it's going to think that you're trying to edit that file. So it's going to put it as an editor. You don't want to do that. You want to say right click and say open with, and you could say web browser, right? Or you can go to the location manually and just double click on it. Either way it works. So there it is. It opens that report. As you can see, it's got all kinds of information. It's got the project information, what are the dependencies, dependent information, what are the jar files and stuff that it relies on. But again, I'm not interested in any of that. And it also shows you all the licenses and plugin management. I'm interested in my report, okay? My code review. So the first thing you want to look at is duplicate code detection. I can click on that one. That says these are all good. There's no duplicate code found, right? The next one is program mistake detector. So let's go click on that one, and there it is. It found all kinds of things based on my best practices rule, right? And some of the things it says it's priority 3, so it's not really that bad, but again, it's best practice, so you gotta go fix it. So what the file is here, ChatGPT controller.java. It's telling me unused assignments. So it's basically said that, hey, you got on line 46, and we're gonna go there in a second. You got something called the initializer for variable responses never used, overwritten on line 56. And then this one says avoid using pin stack trace, and you gotta use the log on instead. These are good practices, right? Because typically on your production, you don't want to dump all kinds of stuff in your log. That's going to make the log really big. So I mean that's why it's recommending this. And then of course there's some loose coupling rule. It basically says that do not use the array list, use probably the list interface instead. Do not tightly couple with array list. That's also a priority 3. And now let's see, what are they saying in priority 4? Priority 4, it's saying that, okay, use one line for each declaration. It enhances code readability. So it's just some good practices. Again, these are priority 4, not that, it is earth-shattering. This is something that is recommended. So again, as you can see, every code, it gave me a recommendation even with the line and with the priority that it's tied to. Now, if you want to see detailed explanation, feel free to click on one of these links. Like if you want to know what the heck they're talking about loose coupling. So go ahead, click on it. I'm clicking on the next tab so that I kind of keep my original report. And here it will explain to you what the rule is. And this is going straight to the PMD, the PMD analyzer, and they'll tell you what is that rule about, right? And these rules you can definitely, and it's talking about, so this is the rule that it's reading. And these rules you can customize it as well. That's a nice thing, okay? All right, so let's look one of them. Like let's look at this guy right here. So it says that unused assignment in controller. This is and one in line 46, and then pin stack precision 55. So let's go to the controller, which is right here, and I think it's talking about this guy right here. As you can see, this is line 55 right here. So, and then there is also something about the response that they talked about, which is probably on, here it is, that was line 55, the other one is line 46. So we're going to go ahead and look at line 46. Okay, so it is talking about this guy, that you got a response right there that is probably, that value is never going to be used, which is probably okay. So again, it's just saying, I could have done this, initialize this thing as null, and that would have been fine as well. So these are all good best practices, as you could see, and you can also tell that it's fairly easy to do run a report like this. So anyway, that's all I had for today, and let me know if you find this helpful, and if you do, please do not forget to subscribe and hit the like button, because your encouragement enables me to create more videos like this that can be helpful, hopefully, for everyone. Thanks again. Bye now. Have a great day.